The year was 1996. A 23-year-old Marshall Mathers set out to create his first professional album release. While he did have several independent recordings and solo releases prior, this album was his first taste of professionalism. With the backing of an actual record label, albeit a pretty small one, Eminem set out to create an album which would kickstart a long-term career in music. And in a way, he did. Just probably not the way he wanted to. The album was a flop, selling only a handful of copies altogether with little to no attention garnered for the album. This, alongside the struggles in his personal life, put him into a bad mental state. Yet, he didn't quit, and would go on to create one of the most famous characters not only in hip-hop but in music as a whole. However, we shouldn't gloss over his first album, seeing as how that album, despite how poorly it did, was what set the foundation for the Eminem we know today. So today, I want to take some time to discuss Infinite. They say you should always remember your first, so let's remember it together as today we take a look at Eminem's first album, Infinite. To understand the basis of Infinite, you need to look at the early life of Eminem. Marshall Bruce Mathers III was born on October 17, 1972, in St. Joseph, Missouri. His father, Marshall Bruce Mathers Jr., and his mother, Deborah Ray Nelson, were both extremely poor, with his father abandoning the family when Eminem was only 18 months old. Debbie then became a single mother, and throughout Eminem's entire childhood, they moved numerous times, before finally settling in Warren, Michigan, a suburb of Detroit. Growing up, Eminem was an outcast who was often bullied and even beaten up. These beatings were a common occurrence in his life, so much so that Eminem's mother sued Roseville Community Schools in 1982 after Eminem suffered all of the following as a result of one case of bullying. Due to Eminem's antisocial behavior, it goes without saying he didn't have many friends. He did, however, have a friend in one Ronnie Polkinghorne, his technical uncle. However, they were both close to the same age. It's said that Ronnie was the person who introduced Eminem to hip-hop when he gave Eminem a copy of the Breakin' soundtrack. Eminem's newfound interest in hip-hop led him to make a couple of new friends who also had an interest in hip-hop music. The first of these new friends were two twin brothers by the name of Mannix and DJ Butterfingers. He also became friends with Detroit legend Champtown, who gave Eminem a small appearance in one of his music videos. This appearance has gone down as Eminem's first official appearance in any music video. Champtown and Eminem became really good friends, and Champ was Eminem's first true friend who was already in the public eye. However, there was one other friend that Eminem made during this time. This friend was Deshaun Holton, aka Proof. And also around this time, Eminem met another important person in his life, as in the mid to late 80s, he met Kimberly and Scott, which began this long period of on-again, off-again dating for the couple. Eminem's new friends and him would create a series of underground mixtapes under the names New Jacks, Basement Productions, and Soul Intent, which were the first official records for Eminem. These tapes helped him network himself some new friends in hip-hop and also some opportunities to show off his skills. One such opportunity was with the radio station WDRK 93.1, which was essentially an open mic night which featured Eminem. During this segment, Eminem began freestyle rapping with little to no idea that the first domino in his career was about to fall. While Eminem was on the station, a man by the name of Mark Bass just so happened to be listening. Now, Mark was in a production team with his brother Jeff, who was a musician himself. And Jeff had some impressive credits on his resume, including works with George Clinton, as well as works on a Parliament record. Mark and Jeff were a production team that were looking for their next big thing. Here is an excerpt from an interview with Jake Bass, the son and nephew of the duo, describing how his family first discovered Eminem. My uncle had heard Marshall on the radio on a local station in the middle of the night. They were doing an open mic night, basically. He was freestyling out there, and he sounded like a rap god. We all know that. Really fast spitting, but actually was saying something. My uncle called up the radio station like, "Who the fuck was that? That was amazing. I've got this recording studio. I want you to come by and record." Eminem showed up shortly after. He wasn't thinking he was coming right away, but Eminem and everybody else did, and everyone was blown away that he was white. At the time, it was just unheard of to have an elite MC like that be white. Vanilla Ice was hot, and that was a big fucking thing in the hip-hop community for him to be taken seriously. Once he started recording, they realized that they had something really special there. The first record that he put out was recorded at our studio with Soul Intent, Backstabber. It was recorded by our engineer Mike Wilder. At this point, it was like, okay, we gotta sign him. My dad and uncle were like, yeah, he's a diamond in the rough. So they signed him in 1995. As stated above, the first thing recorded with the Bass Brothers was the song Fucking Backstabber, which was released as a cassette tape single with the song Biterphobia on the B-side. The cover was also hand-drawn by Marshall himself, which doesn't add much to the story. However, people are usually surprised to learn about the drawing ability of Marshall. However, despite his new deal, Marshall was nowhere near famous. In the midst of everything else, his girlfriend, the famous Kim Scott, became pregnant in 1995, and in December of 95, gave birth to their daughter and Eminem's only biological child, Haley Jade Mathers. Now, as a new father, dirt poor, who had grown up in some of the worst conditions imaginable, Eminem turned to the only thing that seemed to have always been there for him: music. And in December of 1995, Eminem began working on his first official studio album, Infinite. Now, the plan for this album was simple: make the album clean to get a better chance of getting picked up by local radio stations. And that's what he did, which is why the Infinite album features barely any cussing. He worked pretty closely with the Bass Brothers, as well as Denon, aka Mr. Porter, who produced the majority of the album. And you might recognize Mr. Porter as a member of D12 or as one of Eminem's producers still to this very day. Eminem worked on the album for a little over 6 months, concluding the recording process in June of 1996. Now, it isn't really clear how the album was promoted, as there isn't much archived information on the promotion of the album at all, outside of a supposed promotional poster which has been archived. Assuming this poster is real, it promoted Infinite by saying, quote, featuring the singles It's Okay, Tonight, and Never Too Far. However, it's unclear if these 3 songs were actually given to radio stations or music shops prior to the album's release. Now, you would assume they would have had to have been, considering this poster is promoting the singles, but there's no evidence to back that up. Despite a lackluster, to say the least, album rollout process, the album officially came out on November 12th, 1996. The final album featured 11 tracks, 10 songs and 1 skit, running just shy of 38 minutes. The album cover featured a simple blue and black cover with some stars, with a clear black tape. However, that cover was only for the cassette, as the vinyl version didn't see a cover whatsoever, and was instead a generic black sleeve with a purple and pink gradient on the center label. The album itself opened with the self-titled track Infinite, where Eminem highlights his rhyming abilities the best on this entire album. Eminem says a lot of shit in the track, but it all boils down to one idea: Eminem is the best. Anyway, on this song, Eminem is talking about how he never played gangster or anything, and instead just wanted to focus on making good, well thought out music. Infinite was truly the best way to start the album. So following that, we get a short skit performed by Proof with background DJing from DJ Head. On this skit, Proof plays a radio host who is introducing the next song which is going to play on the station, titled It's Okay, which leads us directly into track 3, titled It's Okay, featuring a hook from rapper IQ. This track features my personal favorite beat in the entire album, and it focuses on the struggles of his life, while still not diving too deep into anything yet. However, Eminem does maintain his hopes to one day be able to provide for his family, and he also talks about how money can make a man do crazy things, but he won't be like the rest. And he plans to use, quote, smarter tactics to overcome the slum. After that, we get track 4, titled Tonight. Tonight is a pretty laid-back track with Eminem discussing what you'd expect for rappers to be talking about: women, being untouchable on the mic, and how he's gonna blow up. This track is another really good listen, but there's not really one set idea, and instead it's just him chopping it up. The next track is 313, once again featuring IQ, but this time IQ gets a verse. Now, the title 313 is a reference to Detroit's area code, which is 313. And Eminem and IQ spend the song talking about how they're both 2 dope rappers from the 313. The song does, however, feature a good amount of punchlines, reminiscent of his style on the Slim Shady LP. I'll run your brain around the block to jog your memory. You couldn't make the fans throw up their hands if they swallowed their fingers. Jump the candlestick, burn your back, and fuck Jill on a hill, but you still ain't Jack. Hell, even IQ had a couple of good punchlines on this track, so this song is a great peek into Eminem trying to discover his voice, and you can hear bits of what would become Slim Shady. After that, we're treated to Maxine, featuring both Mr. Porter and Rapper 3. Maxine is a song about a woman who is particularly dirty, with all 3 verses discussing her nastiness. Yeah, there's not much to say about the song, but at the end of it, Maxine does reveal that she has AIDS. The following track is titled Open Mic, featuring rapper Time. And you fans of Joey Badass might recognize the chorus of this song as the chorus of World Domination, off the album 1999. As the title states, the song is presented as an open mic night, presumably at Detroit's hip-hop shop where rappers would get past the mic to spit a verse. Eminem basically shows why he should get past the mic while questioning why others get past the mic at all. The official Rap Genius page for this song also had this short video of Eminem explaining to Sway Calloway how the hip-hop shop operated.
It was like maybe 2 fights out of the whole thing, but everything was positive. Everybody would come in there, everybody had, you had a little rep. If you had a little rep and got that respect as an MC, you know, and like Swift from D12 was one of them. You know, he was in a group called the Rabies, and it was him and his man Beretta would always get past the mic. You know what I'm saying? They'd walk in, tail end of the shop. They'd always get handed the mic.
And then after that, we get Never Too Far, featuring Mr. Porter again. And the song starts with this skit between the two where Denon asks Eminem if he has a spare 15 cents to get on the bus, but Eminem says he doesn't because he's broke. He also mentions the fact that he doesn't have a car, which highlights the condition Eminem was living in at this time. The ultimate message of this song is to inspire the listener by telling them that the grand life you desire is never too far. It's just a matter of you actually working to get it. He also spends some time discussing how he plans to get rich, and there's these interludes throughout the which show him and Denon discussing how they're gonna make it one day and get rich. With the third to final track on this album, we are treated to what could possibly be the cleanest Eminem song of all time, Searchin'. Searchin' features Mr. Porter yet again, alongside Angela Workman, who lays down this smooth, low-key chorus which sets the tone for the track, as a love song. Eminem's entire verse doesn't feature a single cuss word, and instead M is pretty lustful towards a woman, talking about how attracted he is to her and how bad he wants her. And remember, this song is prior to the Eminem we know today, so there's no like underlying punchline or like irony to this. It's just a legitimate love song to some woman. Our second to last track is Backstabber, different from Fucking Backstabber, the single he released in years prior. However, the chorus lyrics are nearly identical. Backstabber has gone down as one of my favorite Eminem tracks of all time, and is an early example of his storytelling ability, even early on. The song starts with what sounds like a voice over a police scanner who is telling all units to keep an eye out for, quote, a man with green hair. The song tells the story of Eminem's hunt for the ever-elusive Backstabber and shows us how he finally captures him. Now at first, this song sounds like a simple storytelling track. However, if you dig deeper into the Eminem lore and you look at some of the lyrics, you'll find that this is actually, more than likely, Eminem's first ever diss track. Earlier, we discussed rapper Champtown, who became one of Eminem's earliest friends in hip-hop, and that is 100% the case. However, there's always been this story that sometime around 1995, Eminem accused Champtown of trying to get with his wife Kim. Champtown's collaborator and rapper Hush discussed the situation in an interview, stating that Kim had secretly recorded a phone call between herself and Champtown, where Champ was, as the rappers would say, trying to holler at her. This call was recorded onto a cassette tape by Kim, who then gave it to Eminem, who then played it for both Champtown and Hush. And just to give you a bit more evidence, do you remember that Fucking Backstabber single we discussed earlier? Well, there's one little tidbit of information I didn't mention. The alleged secretly recorded phone call by Kim is the intro to that tape. Eminem literally put the phone call onto the tape, which leads directly into the Fucking Backstabber single. On top of that, there are multiple hints in his lyrics that this song is about Champtown. The opening line states that a joker is loose. This line is a reference to Champtown's first official EP, Call Me Joker. Eminem also states to look out for a man with green hair, and when you look at the cover of Champtown's 1996 EP, you can see he has green hair. There's a few other lines throughout the song that hint to it being about the situation with Champtown, but the line that drives it home for me is the closing police scanner skit. In this skit, it states that the suspect was apprehended and he was, quote, going back to the crazy home. This line drives it home for me because Champtown's first official project, though being unreleased, was titled Crazy Home Escapist. Now, it's important for me to state that the song being about Champtown was never officially confirmed. However, all of these references make it pretty obvious to me that this is in fact a Champtown diss track. And with that, we finally reached the final song on the album. The final track is Jealousy Woes 2, and is a track discussing the jealousy between two people in a relationship and how he's being taken for granted. There really isn't much happening here, and honestly, it's a pretty lackluster way to end the album, but this is in fact the album's closer. And with that, we have reached the end of the Infinite album. All in all, the album is a pretty chill underground rap album you'd expect to come out in the 90s Detroit music scene, and with Eminem's decision to keep it clean on this record, it's a pretty easy listen, and the best way I could describe it is the kind of record you put on in the background while chilling with the homies. But outside of what I thought about it, what did everybody else think about it? Well, honestly, no one really paid the album any attention. By basically all means, the Infinite album was a failure. The album failed to get basically any attention outside of a handful of tracks getting minor radio airplay and club play. Additionally, the Infinite album wasn't actually available in stores, with most of the copies, if not all, being sold by Eminem himself out of the trunk of his car. Now, the amount of records sold varies depending on where you get the information, but Eminem himself stated in his autobiography that only around 70 copies were ever sold. The amount of copies of Infinite which were pressed are around 500 to 1,000, depending on who you believe. There weren't many reviews at all for the album from the time, and the reviews that weren't very positive. In fact, I only found one positive review for the album from the time, published in Underground Sounds. And that is basically it. Infinite did nothing for Eminem's career, and that fact put him into a severe depression. I mean, put yourself in his shoes. You have a 1-year-old, you're broke, your album failed, you're working minimum wage dishwashing jobs, you have personal family struggles, as well as struggles with drugs and alcohol. One story that paints the picture perfectly of how he was living at the time comes from Eminem in a Rolling Stone interview. That was the worst time ever, dog. It was like 5 days before Christmas, which is Haley's birthday. I had like $40 to get her something. I wrote rock bottom right after that. On top of this, Eminem and Kim had recently broken up, preventing him from seeing his daughter. All of this happening at the same time, all blended together into one perfect storm of awfulness. Eminem was broken. He was depressed, and he had nothing else he could do. And that was when Eminem tried to take his own life. Eminem has since opened up about the situation with LL Cool J in an interview, stating, "It was right around the time I started messing with any kind of drugs. And I probably took 25 codeine pills and was like, fuck it." He went on to say, "I was just so depressed. I was like, man, fuck it. And I ended up throwing up all over I missed the toilet at Marky's house and puked all over the fucking floor. And was like just laying there for like 30 minutes. As you can tell, the attempt was unsuccessful. And Eminem did what any good man does. He kept it pushing. And if there is one good thing that came out of Infinite, it's the fact that this experience, not only with Infinite but in his personal life, would be the cause of the creation of Slim Shady. Eminem confirmed this in that same Rolling Stone interview, saying, "After that record, every rhyme I wrote got angrier and angrier. A lot of it was because of the feedback I got. Motherfuckers were like, 'You're a white boy. Why the fuck you rapping for? Why don't you go into rock and roll?' All that type of shit started pissing me off." Eminem's previous struggles with his family, with substances, and with life in general became the main themes you would see throughout his following project, the Slim Shady EP. However, since this is a video about Infinite, this is where the story concludes. However, I am highly interested in doing one of these videos on every one of Eminem's projects chronologically. And I think it would be cool to tell the story of Eminem through the stories of his albums. So if you would like to see that series, leave a comment below letting me know that. And I guess with that, that's all we have for today. As always, thank you guys for watching. It's so fucking hot in this room right now. Can you guys see I'm sweating? If you guys notice that the hat's been moving, it's because between my on-screen time, I've been taking the hat off. And my Norwood is probably Norwooding, but dude, it's so hot in here. Like, subscribe, all the good stuff. Patreon might be out now, perhaps. I gotta go turn the fan on, guys. Thank you guys for watching as always, and until next time. Oh, and remember, Kobe sucks.